All right, so setting up your X9000 on the Ultra B, let's go through it. So first you're gonna press on your X9000, obviously turn your bike on, that's step one. Then we wanna go to settings. I'm gonna start in general first off. Then we wanna select our bike type. So in our case, you'll press on bike type, and in our case, it will be Ultra B. All right, so motor type. We are running the XUB80 in this bike, but if you're running stock motor, you will have two options as they changed it with the 2024 models. There's now a new motor in the 2024 and up bikes. But if you have a 2023 and down, then your motor will be the original Suron Ultra B. But if you have a 2024 and up, 2024, 2025 as the filming of this video, you will select Suron Ultra B IPM, internal permanent magnet motor, which is pretty cool that they did that. But there's one caveat with that motor, it's actually slower than the original motor. So you won't get as much horsepower as the original SPM motor from 2023 and below, which is a bit disappointing. And the reasoning is for that is because all they did is change the rotor. They didn't change the stator, they just changed the rotor. And so by doing that, they actually lost power. They didn't increase power, but they actually increased strength. IPM is a lot stronger than a SPM motor as the magnets are on the outside of the rotor. Not to bore you too much, but basically IPM is better, but it won't get as much horsepower because they didn't upgrade the rest of the motor. They just upgraded the rotor. So if your 2023 mates are beating you and you're on a new 2024, that is why your motor has been changed and it doesn't make as much power as the 2023, which is disappointing. So scrolling down, we get to battery series, press on battery series, select what you have. If you're running stock battery, you will select 72 volt. Check what battery you're running. If you're running a Chai battery, that's 22S, the Chai Ultra B battery, 22S. But just make sure you check what you have. Read the spec sheet, go, all right, is it 400 amp? Yes, it says it's 400 amp. All right, I can set it at 400 amp. Don't go above 400 amp, the BMS will trip. If you're running stock battery, select 72 volt, go battery series, come down to stock Suron Ultra B battery. There we go. That's going to immediately set our amperage. We can't go over 200 amps on the stock battery. So if you're running, say, the Chai Ultra B battery, very popular battery, you want to go obviously battery series, make sure it's on 22S, same as our EBMX upgraded battery. Then your battery series, you'll want to just select 22S EBMX Ultra B, press on that. Then our amperage, we want to you can turn that up all the way to 400 amp for the 81 Apex Chai battery. You can turn it all the way up to 400 amp. If you don't turn it up to 400 amp, you won't get the maximum horsepower. There's no point doing a upgraded battery and not turning the juice up because you won't get any horsepower. So turn that up to 400 all the way, baby. And that goes for the EBMX Ultra B battery as well. Turn it all the way up to 400. All right, now gear ratios. We want to do wheel diameter starting off with. All right, so our measuring tape's grown legs and walked away somewhere. This is a very crude way of measuring our back wheel, but this is why I'm gonna do it. There's 300 there, fold him over, so that's 600. Then we have got roughly 660. Our rear wheel is an upgraded 18-inch dirt bike wheel, so that's why it is 660. If you got stock 19s, it's gonna be different for you. So 660, there we go. Now we can go gear ratios. Now the easiest thing to do for gear ratios is to go to the X9000 group page. Then we want to go up to search and just search gear ratios. Scroll down, that's a beautiful bike there. Jack, you got a nice bike there, mate, I like that. Keep scrolling, nice little triple X there. Michael, mate, you've got a nice triple X, I like that. Let's keep scrolling. Here we go, Bridger. Press on that. Press on the page, there we go. Scroll down and you will get all your gear ratios. So here is the gear ratios for belt, going all the way up to a rear sprocket of 68. If you have a bigger rear sprocket than 68, sorry, that is ridiculous. there you go. All the way up to a 68 rear sprocket. Figure out your gear ratio if you're running belt. We're not, we're running the Dirty Bike 420 chain conversion. And we are running a and Jared is running a gaping 51 tooth rear sprocket. Let's have a look here. Let's go across. It is 9.42, but it's not actually 9.42 on this bike because it is running our EBMX upgraded jack shaft, which has a 15 tooth front sprocket. So we're gonna have to calculate it. So let's figure out what the Dirty Bike conversion is. So if we have a look here, the primary Dirty Bike conversion is 4.2. So we know that the Dirty Bike conversion is 4.2. We need to figure out our rear. So what we do, in our case, we go 51 divided by 15 equals 3.4. So then we can times our primary drive by our secondary drive. So we go 2.4 times 3.4 equals 8.16. So we can come back over here and go 8.16, 8.16, press OK. There we go. Now you can change your temperature units depending on if you want Fahrenheit or Celsius. We like Celsius here in Australia. Speed units, same thing. Select kilometers or miles per hour. We like kilometers here in Australia. Now we can come down to motor direction. Now in our case it is selected to clockwise. Let's just press save. There we go. And it wants to calibrate our motor. So we can let it, we can press yes and press start. And then we'll come back to motor direction once our encoder is calibrated. Make sure nothing is obstructing the wheel in any way, shape or form. Because if anything's touching the wheel, you might have a coggy throttle at different RPMs if your calibration actually failed, even though it might have said successful. If anything obstructed that wheel, it might actually fail, but still say successful. So just something to keep an eye out for. Right, done, press OK. Now what we can do is we can put our bike up into mode 1. And our wheel is going backwards. So let's scroll down and we can go motor direction, press anti-clockwise, press save, OK. Now we're spinning the correct way. All right, now in our case, our motor is an XUB80, so I'm gonna put this bike back to XUB80, press save and calibrate that encoder once again. All right, we're now done in general. Let's click out of general and we can go to our modes and levels. All right, so if you are running stock battery, it can run up to 19 kilowatts, right? But if your BMS does trip, you will have to lower it a bit. Depends, it really actually depends on what battery you have. If you've got a new model battery or if you have an older one. So just see how it goes. If it trips, then you know to lower your power. All right, so we can go, our max battery limit is going to be 19, our max kilowatt limit for stock battery. All right, and stock battery, you can go up to 800 phase. Reverse strength, I like to turn that all the way up. That is your power limits for stock battery. If you are running upgraded battery but stock motor, you can turn your phase all the way up to 1000. You can turn your maximum kilowatts up to, you can turn it all the way up if you really want to. The only thing that's going to happen is overheating the motor, so you'll notice you'll start to lose power. But you can actually turn it all the way up. It's not going to hurt it, but your theoretical max power is about 23 to 24 kilowatt on a 2024 and up bike. If you are running a 2023 and below, gets pretty cool for you guys because the stock motor can actually pull about 30 kilowatt. It's a fair bit more. It can actually pull close to 30 kilowatt. So yeah, you can turn it all the way up 30 kilowatt and just leave it there and turn your phase up to 1000 and do whatever the heck. You can do whatever the heck you want to do in here. You can turn them all up to 1000. You can play around your heart's desire as long as you know your limits. Now the recommendation is if you are running stock motor, then your gearing will completely change. Sometimes going a taller sprocket in the rear can actually give you more top speed and more low end torque. Electric motors are very weird. It's all about timing, a bit like in a combustion engine. It's actually all about timing when the field weakening will inject into the motor. So you have to have the timing right. When those phase amps start to go down and that field weakening starts to go in, it actually wants to inject at the right point. That crossover point, you got to time that perfectly. So that's why your gearing, you actually have to play around with it. You might go down in gearing and think you're going to gain top speed, but you might actually not. You might actually gain top speed by going up in gearing. So you do have to play around with it, especially with the stock motor. The stock motor is a very low kV, so it makes heaps of torque, but actually drops off at the top RPMs. So you do have to play around with gearing quite a lot with electric bikes to really get into that maximum efficiency range, have the maximum torque and the maximum horsepower / top speed. Right, now if you are running the full drivetrain, you've got controller, you've got battery, you've got motor, you can go all the way up to 40 kilowatts at 1000 phase. So let's go back out of here. Let's just press exit. So if you do want to run 40 kilowatt, get in contact with support at EBMX.com and Bridger or one of the guys will help you out with getting unlimited power. You have to know that code in order to get your battery model to unlimited. Once it's at unlimited, you can go all the way up to 500 amps. And this is how you unlock the big boy power of the Ultra B when you have the full upgrade kit in the bike. So we can press save, we can come back out and we can go to modes and levels, and now you can turn it all the way up to 40 kilowatt at 1000 phase, which is pretty dang cool, and press OK. And there we go. So there you go, they're your limits for the different types of setups. You can also go to your street mode, set up your street mode however you like, speed limit there, set that up however you want. And then you can go up the top here, mode after restart, and you can select either street or race. So every time you turn on your bike, it will automatically default to either street mode or race mode. So you can tell your bike to default back to street mode, and you can turn it all the way down to 0 horsepower. And so then it looks like your bike is slow when you restart your bike. So that's pretty cool. Or you can just select it onto race, so it starts with all the bickies when you turn it on. You can play around in here however you see fit. That is the beautiful thing about the X9. We put the control in your hands. Right, now we can go to throttle and we can play around in here. So the first one you'll see is twist throttle accelerator. Obviously we want to leave that on accelerator, but you can of course use your thumb regen as a accelerator. It is a cool little feature. You can press it onto accelerator, or you can use it as a regen brake, or you can use it as an E-clutch. So there's multiple different options there for your thumb regen throttle, which is pretty cool. We've even dabbled in actually putting a lever on these bikes for E-clutch, which is very cool as well. But we're just gonna leave it on regen brake. Off throttle regen, either turn it on or off. Right, and you can select your off throttle percentage. How strong, how much engine braking do you want when you button off that throttle? Do you want it to feel like 4-stroke? Do you want it to feel like a 2-stroke? Or do you just want something ridiculous, which no one has, which is basically the bike will just lock up the rear end when you let off the throttle? Up to you. I'm going to leave it at about 35% there. That will be fine. So if you're running stock Ultra B battery, your maximum off-throttle regen strength will be 25%. All right, controller calibrations. Going to controller calibrations, and we're now going to set up our twist throttle. If you're on a 2024, then you'll select 2024 Sur-On throttle. If you are not on a 2024 Sur-On and you're on a 23 or below, don't click on 2024 Sur-On. Press start wizard, and it tells us that we need to turn the bike to mode 0 in order to do the setup of the throttle. That makes sense, otherwise our rear wheel is going to be absolutely ripping. So click it to mode 0, make sure you're on mode 0, press OK, and then we can press start wizard again. The first countdown you do nothing. Then the second one, you just slowly go back and forth, rolling your throttle minimum to maximum. And you just keep doing that until it says finish. There we go, and press save. And we can do the exact same thing with the thumb throttle. Press start wizard, do nothing. Min to max. Press save. Right, now we can keep scrolling down to fuel weakening. Now, once again, if you are running the full kit, you're running upgraded battery, you're running upgraded controller and upgraded motor, you can crank your fuel weakening. You can crank your fuel weakening all the way up to 100%, which is pretty dang cool. But if you're not, come back out, make sure you've got the right motor and stuff selected. So if we go down to the new Sur-Ron motor, the new Sur-Ron Ultra B motor, and then let's just say we've got stock battery even. Now there has been an issue with the stock battery tripping and it not being related to fuel weakening. The main issue is the communications on the stock battery, especially when the battery is fully charged. When you let off the throttle, you might get error O2 and it trips. The main fix for that is to run the stock display. So the actual Ultra B stock display cable that we provide you, make sure you use that and make sure you use your original stocks display and that's all plugged in correctly. Otherwise, you can indeed have tripping issues. So make sure the communications port is talking properly via having that cable plugged in. As well as update your firmware as well. You'll have to update your firmware and make sure your firmware is on the latest firmware as it is an issue that we've recently fixed. By all means, if you are having problems, please get in contact with tech support and we can take it from there if you're still having problems. Now, if you've got stock battery turned up to 19 kilowatt at 800 phase, your fuel weakening should be set to 0. Now, if you want a bit more top speed and are happy to sacrifice a bit of bottom end grunt for more top speed, this is what you would do. So go to your modes and levels, turn your max kilowatts down to 14 kilowatts. Your max phase, turn that down to 700. Save that. Then go back to fuel weakening and you can turn fuel weakening all the way up to 50%. And by doing this, it will sacrifice a bit of bottom end grunt, which I mean the stock motor is already pretty grunty anyway because it's so low kV. So it will sacrifice a little bit of bottom end grunt, but give you more top speed. So have a bit of a play around with that one there. That one's a cool little trick for guys running stock battery and stock motor. Next is display and controller options. Now you obviously have a couple of different options when you're on your Ultra B. So your options are SW102, just your SW102, SW102 stock Ultra B display, or Ultra B display and hand controls, no SW102. So that's an option as well, which is pretty cool. In our case, we're just gonna put it on SW102 and Ultra B dash. So there we go. Now all the way down at the bottom, if your controller is running the latest firmware, you should have save app configuration and load app configuration. So that's exactly what it sounds like. You can literally save your configuration once you're all said and done, and then you can load it after you've updated your firmware, which is really nice. So if we were to go save app configuration, press start, find a spot in your phone you want to save it, press save, just like that. Then we can go load app configuration, press setup, start, find your saved configuration, press on it, Bob's your uncle, you're done, save. So slow voltage cutout, if you turn that on, it's actually a really cool feature and it will basically tell the controller to start to reduce power towards the end of the battery rather than just cutting out, which is really nice. So you can turn it on and off here, as well as you can set your threshold. So we normally run it pretty low. So it basically should start to cut out, to say if I'm on the track or something, it should start to cut out around, it should start to lower my power, around like 30 to 20% sort of thing. And so normally we run it anywhere from 5 to 10% sort of thing. You can even run it at 0. It still will actually lower your power rather than completing cutting out, because you can't have that. Like if you're going up the face of a jump and your bike just goes, no, you're going to be going for an OTB, and no one likes that. So it's a very cool feature. Turn it on. I like to set it anywhere from 5 to 10% and press save. Call it a day. Happy days. That's it for controller calibrations. We can now come out of controller calibrations and you're pretty much done. Other things are like firmware updates. So you can go into firmware updates there and update your firmware. Once again, you can save your configuration, load your configuration after you've finished updating, which is really cool. Then you can go up the top here and press register. So you can give your bike a username, a password, and then your controller is locked to you. You have to have that password in order to change your controller. Write that password down. Do not forget it. It's a big deal if you forget it. So if you really think you need it, use it. But if you think you don't probably need it, don't use it, because if you do forget that password, you will have to reach out to tech support, and it's not exactly easy to fix. So don't forget your password. Happy days. Edit, you can give your bike a name. That's pretty cool. That's really about it. Go to town. Have a sick time.